All right, perfect. So hi, everyone. Welcome to our third annual Women's Empowerment Conference. My name is Gabriela Mata, and I am part of the conference committee. And I'm so excited to welcome you all and super happy to be here with everyone. Before we begin, I want to take just 2 minutes of your time to share a couple things with everyone. The session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our website for you to review at a later time. I also ask that if anyone has any questions, to please feel free to use the chat feature, as well as, feel free to engage with everyone. Definitely let us know what you're thinking about our presentation, and just your reflections in general. Feel free to keep your camera on, but I do ask that you keep your microphone on mute, just while our presenter is speaking. We will definitely have some time towards the end to be able to chat and ask questions. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker to kick off our conference. Gabriela is a Chicago-born author, curator, teacher, and a student of yoga for 15 years, and we are thrilled to welcome you. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Gabriela so that she can go ahead and tell us more about her. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's so nice to be here. It's beautiful outside. It's the perfect day to be talking about this. So yeah, I was born in Chicago and I have been practicing yoga for 15 years. It all started 15 years ago. My mom and I were looking for a way to bond and also to kind of get healthy and really work on ourselves. My parents have always prioritized health. They've always prioritized wellness. They came from a third world country, and my parents are from Ecuador, and they really instilled in me the value of eating well, of feeding your body right, and taking really good care of it. As soon as I was able to walk, my parents put me in tumbling. I did gymnastics for 8 years. Clearly, I wasn't the best at it, which is why I'm not in the Olympics. But I tried my best, and I dabbled in different things. I also did ballet. I did jazz. I did tap. I kept myself moving in high school. I played on the varsity soccer team. Not to say I was the best. We only had one soccer team, so I kept myself moving, but after a while, I kind of became bored with it. I wasn't really interested in it. And so my mom was like, let's go to the gym. Let's try it out. So back then we used to have a little thing called Bally's Total Fitness. I'm probably aging myself talking about it, but it was this really cool gym, and it was mainly geared towards women without really saying it was. And they had so many cool features at that gym, like your typical gym. But one of the things that really stuck out for my mom and I was this specific woman who was teaching something that kind of looked like calisthenics, kind of looked like aerobics, but not quite, kind of looked like yoga, but not quite. And so we were like, let's try it out. So we tried it out and we absolutely loved it. She taught Pilates and she taught yoga. So I've also been practicing Pilates for 15 years as well. So that's kind of how my love affair with yoga and Pilates started. More so with yoga because it was a little bit more accessible. Pilates is a little bit more challenging, but it really opened up this door for me of being able to create space for myself. It really helped me prioritize myself. It helped me with making sure that I was taking good care of myself as far as creating the time. I was in high school, I was in a bunch of different things, and being able to create time for myself was so crucial. We only went once a week, and then it slowly became twice a week, and then 3 times a week. And then I took dance in high school, and we did yoga then too. The thing that really gravitated me towards yoga was that you didn't need anything else except your mat and maybe like a little corner in your apartment. And creating that space, that safe space, that sacred space for myself was, I think, really changed the trajectory of my life. Without it, I wouldn't have been as grounded. I think my decision making would have been a little more cloudy, especially as an adolescent growing up in the city of Chicago. I grew up in Humboldt Park. I was born and raised there. And then we moved to Logan Square, which are not very far from each other. And I think that because my mother put me in so many activities growing up, because she made the time to allow me to, create that time for myself, I was able to make better choices, have better judgment. I was able to excel academically. And I know that some of it has to do with me and my upbringing. And again, like I said, the way that my parents really prioritize wellness. Growing up, my dad would make these beet and carrot smoothies. Now I'm not I'm not advertising beet and carrot smoothies to you guys, but my dad would make these beet and carrot smoothies every morning. And every morning before he went to work, my dad was a truck driver, and he would wake me up to drink a whole glass of beet and carrot juice. So I would, this was like the 90s, early 2000s. So the juice extractors were not as good as they are today. So I would take a bunch of it, and then I would wake up with like beet and carrot pulp in my mouth. So I definitely, a lot of it had to do with my parents really prioritizing wellness. And when I say wellness, I feel like that word has really been co-opted to mean like CBD oil, or like, not that there's anything wrong with CBD oil, but to mean like a lot of different things that it doesn't necessarily have to mean. And especially now with everything going on with COVID-19 and the pandemic, and just in general, people are kind of going back to really focusing on their health. Now people have the time, since all the clubs are closed and all the movie theaters are closed and things like that. It's like, it's been the perfect time to kind of recenter and kind of come back to ourselves as far as wellness goes. So for me, the beginning of this pandemic, if it hadn't been for yoga, so just to clarify, I actually live alone. I spent most of my pandemic by myself, working on myself, manifesting, really thinking about what kind of a shift I can make that's positive with all of this time that I have been gifted. So I decided to enroll in a YTT course, and it's a 300-hour YTT course, and it has been a real blessing during this time. My cohorts are so supportive, so nurturing, and I was only able to take this course because of a scholarship that they were offering to people of color. And it's something that has, to go on to my next topic, it's something that has always stuck out to me, how this industry is saturated with white bodies and white women. And I think that it's a good time for us to kind of reclaim these spaces and integrate ourselves into them. And it becomes kind of a thing because these spaces weren't really created for us. So it's kind of like trying to find like that really happy medium. And the only way that we can kind of reclaim these spaces and reclaim these spaces for ourselves in the most positive light ever is to kind of go out there and explore all the ways that we can integrate ourselves into wellness. So I started this teacher training program, and I was one of the only Hispanic women there. Just to give you a little more background on myself, I worked at a Pilates studio doing marketing and graphic design. And I want to say about 99.9% of the Pilates instructors were white. And 99.9% of the clients were white as well. And this is a big issue that is within the wellness industry and every facet of it. It's predominantly white. And that's because a lot of it isn't really within our reach. A lot of it is extremely expensive, not to say that Hispanics can't afford it, But the opportunities just aren't there. And I feel like after the summer, a lot of these wellness studios, a lot of these places have really taken a step back themselves and been like, we could definitely afford to provide a scholarship of some sort. So thankfully, I ended up taking advantage of one of them. And one of the things that I had to be conscious for was, sure, they can definitely, oh, we have a little comment here. So we have, Gabby says, so important to prioritize wellness. Wish I started practicing when I was much younger. Absolutely, Gabby, I agree. I have worn many hats. So I was a primary school teacher for 5 years. And one of the things I had my kids do when they were getting really crazy, as kids usually do, we would have them do yoga. And it was like a reset. And man, what I wouldn't give to have CPS have like mandatory, even just 10 minutes of yoga. It would just completely rearrange their energy and make it more intentional, definitely. Bianca Hara said, yoga has helped me get through the pandemic life as well. Yeah, especially for someone like me that was alone, it made me really value myself, you know, because you're more than just the voice in your head. The voice in your head isn't really you. You're more than your thoughts, you're you. And that definitely helped me during the pandemic as well, especially in the very thick of it when we just really didn't know what was happening. Would we ever be able to go to the movie theater? Would there be a vaccine within the next year? You know, that time, that anxiety, I was able to really hone in on it because of yoga. And then Melissa Sanchez said, yes, I agree. My first yoga class, I felt like I didn't belong there because I was the only Latinx person there. Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things is like, our bodies are different from white bodies, right? And it's difficult to walk into a space where you immediately don't feel like you belong. You don't see somebody like you holding space for you. And it's funny because I always ended up making some sort of a camaraderie with another person of color there. And that's not to say that like I couldn't do that with another white woman, but it's different because we're not from the same gente, we're not from the same comunidad. And I'm so grateful for nonprofits like Healthyhood. Fantastic. I mean, what Tanya is doing for the community, being able to bring movement into spaces that there wouldn't have been movement before, is so inspiring. I can't even begin to tell you how many fangirl comments I've left on her Instagram. Like, you are amazing. You are amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Gabby, for linking that. So if you guys live in Pilsen, Bridgeport, the surrounding areas, they have a Healthyhood there. I know they recently opened one up here, up north in Logan Square as well. So definitely check them out. I'm mostly here advocating for movement in general. So, but if I find like different things like that you guys can definitely look into, I will do it. I mean, there's so many resources for yoga, a lot of different spaces that you can go to feel more like you belong there, you know? And yeah, so it's really interesting when you look at a map of like where fitness studios are, the majority of them are in the north side. There aren't very many studios on the south side or the east side and beyond. So I'm actually really, really chummy with Tabitha Coilas from Tab Pilates. She is the only Black Pilates studio owner in the city of Chicago, the only one. She runs her studio and I've gone to a few of her classes. Huge difference from the vibe that I get from when I go to like Lakeview or Lincoln Park. Huge, huge difference. And I think that that's really important, even as a white woman, going into these spaces and really feeling like you also belong there, right? But as going into white spaces, it's a little different because of the way that colonization works and the way that white bodies are centered within the wellness industry. So Maria said, I did yoga about 8 years ago. I had to take public transportation 45 minutes out of my way because there was nothing close to me. Eventually I stopped going. Yeah, similar experience. So what ended up happening with my precious Bally's was that the woman who used to give these classes, she had a fantastic story, which I'm going to touch on right now. Her name was Naza, and I believe that she was Persian, and she was morbidly obese, and taken her time out of her time to be a mom, and didn't prioritize herself. And genetics also played a role in it, and she started to gain a lot of weight. And her husband eventually cut ties with her, and that really motivated her to start working out. And so she started doing yoga, and she started doing Pilates. And her story is so inspiring, not because she lost the weight, not because her body went from looking a certain way to another way. It's because she was able to mentally make the time to move her body. And that very well could have saved her life. It definitely gave her a new one, because here she was, this woman who looked, I mean, if you would have asked me, I would have said she dances for the Joffrey. I never would have thought that that was her backstory. And the most inspiring thing about her was her attitude and her real zest for life that she didn't have before she began her relationship with movement. And one of the reasons why I love yoga so much, and Pilates as well, is because all the movements can be done on your mat. When Naza ended up leaving Bally's Total Fitness, my mom and I didn't go there anymore. So we started looking up YouTube videos on Pilates and yoga, and we would go in our living room and roll out our mats. And every day we had like a little 1 hour bonding session. To this day, my mom and I do yoga together. We find time, obviously it's not the same as before, but yoga is one of the best things you can do with your parents, because it's so accessible for them. There's so many modifications you can offer. And if you look up yoga for late bloomers on YouTube, you can find a lot of different resources for that as well. There's also, so one of the reasons why I want to become a yoga instructor is to take up space, to be another face in the studio. Somebody can look at and say, hey, I feel comfortable here because I know that this person's going to hold space for me. Also because my mom is somebody that would walk into Lululemon, would walk into these predominantly white health spaces, and she wouldn't feel welcome. And I don't ever want somebody's mom to come into my space and feel that way. For me, it's personal to become a yoga instructor. For me, I think it's important to move with my mom. And so I want to create, wherever I end up teaching, if I get hired, because there's such a big demand for yoga teaching jobs, but so many yoga instructors. But I think something that sets me apart is definitely my ability to be able to engage with people, especially people that are like me. So I didn't come from a lot of money. So being able to provide this for somebody at an accessible price and in an accessible way, for me is so important. It's the reason why I even started doing this. One of the things that I want to offer is chunky yoga, which is yoga for bigger bodies, because not everybody is a size 2, and not everybody has the body that is mostly what you see on like Hello Yoga, Lululemon, all these other athleisure wear companies. If you go to their pages, I think Girlfriend is a really good brand. They actually like celebrate different sizes, and yoga wasn't meant for the Gwyneth Paltrows. Yoga was actually developed like thousands of years ago, and it was made specifically for little boys. It was meant as a physical, mental, and spiritual practice, a sense of discipline in ancient India. So there's a huge variety of yoga. There's like the hot yoga, obviously, and there's just different kinds. There's yin yoga, there's Zen yoga, there's restorative, there's gentle, there's power flow, and there's different kinds of yoga too. There's so many fun things that they've been able to do for yoga and to be able to incorporate them. But I would like to go kind of back to the basics of yoga, where it doesn't need any of that futs and tuts. So there's a few things that I want to touch on now that I have stopped rambling. So let's talk self-care. So self-care was actually a term coined by Audre Lorde. And Audre Lorde, for those of you who might not know, some of you probably do know who she is. She's an American writer, feminist, womanist, librarian, civil rights activist. She is a self-described Black lesbian mother warrior poet. And she actually practiced yoga. One of the Pilates elders, Kathleen Grant, she is a Black woman. And Lolita San Miguel is also a Latinx Pilates elder as well. And these are people that have kind of been not written out of history, but not as much as Pilates, as Joseph Pilates and his wife. And so back to Audre Lorde. So Audre Lorde coined the idea of self-care. And for her, this is a quote from her: "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." So after the last administration came into office, I made it a point to go even harder with self-care. And when I say self-care, my idea of self-care is more tied to what Audre Lorde is speaking about, and less so what Target sells you in the care section. So Lorde's idea about care was picked up by many queer feminists and activist circles. Caring for yourself becomes a way of preserving yourself in a world that is hostile to your identity, your community, and way of life. So I am not doing this to become some sort of a rich speaker. I'm doing this for my community because I want to give back. I want to be, like I said, another face in the room. But self-care is really fun. You know, you get to put a mask on, you get to put on Friends, maybe put on The Office for like the 18th time in a row. Who hasn't been there, right? But there's a difference between self-care and self-coddling, right? So self-care versus self-coddling. Self-coddling becomes an excuse to get out of commitments, right? Self-care can avoid helping you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, right? And sometimes that's what you need for growth. You know, not self-care isn't always going to be comfortable, right? Self-care versus self-coddling. Self-coddling, one of the consequences that you have with self-coddling is that you miss out on opportunities to learn and have experiences outside of your control. I'm not saying that when you do yoga, you're going to go into some like alternate universe that you're not going to be able to control anything, because on the contrary, yoga is about your movement and you are the boss of your practice. So I thought I would definitely touch a little bit on that just to kind of make it really clear what kind of a self-care I'm talking about. Very intentional, very nurturing, and something that is based in community, because community is important. I think we saw that the most, you know, during the last administration that we had, during the pandemic, especially how many mutual aids came about and really saved the day. How many people were offering free yoga classes on Instagram. I think time of the pandemic. So for me, community just saved so many people. You know, the vaccine is definitely saving people, and medical science is definitely saving people, but community is saved our spirits during the pandemic. And I think that that's super important to hold on to. So the benefits of yoga on paper are it improves your balance, your strength, and your flexibility. Back pain relief, that's a big one for me. I work from home and I sit in front of a computer. I'm on my phone, you know, on Instagram, and without yoga, I feel like my back would have given out much sooner. It eases arthritis pain. So, fun fact, our bones, as we get older, they benefit from bending, because the more they bend, right, the stronger they get, the more that they rebuild stronger. And as you get older, doing yoga, even holding a downward dog as an older person, huge benefits, especially for our parents who might not have as easy jobs as we have. I'm speaking as a daughter of immigrants. My dad is a truck driver. He's 60 and he's still a truck driver. My mom is a nanny and she's been a nanny for 25 years. And their jobs are much more physically demanding than mine, right? Definitely something that really helped me to doing this is now being able to give my parents proper yoga classes. And it definitely eases the guilt of having such an easy job when their job isn't as easy, right? So one of the things that I learned in yoga for late bloomers is that the group of people that benefit the most from yoga are people that sit for work, like students, and people that sit for work as in truck drivers or service industry people like bartenders because they're on their feet all day, or people that work in the fields. Usually the jobs that fall onto people of color, right? Heart health, big one. You see people running on treadmills or getting their cardio. You can get your cardio in with yoga, trust me. Better sleep. That's a big one for me, especially during the pandemic when we were literally living the same day over and over. It became harder for me to be able to fall asleep. And upping my yoga practice, the intensity of it, and how many times I was doing it in a week definitely helped with that. It helps your energy. It gives you a better mood. You manage stress much better. And it connects you with a supportive community. And as far as more energy and brighter moods, I'm going to touch on this amazing TED Talk that I want you all to take a look at. It's a TED Talk on exercise and the connection between exercise and the brain by Wendy Suzuki. So I'm going to write the name down in here for you guys. And Suzuki. Okay. So she starts off her TED Talk basically with this line, which is the reason why I was like glued to my screen when she was speaking. So she said, what if I told you there was something you could do right now that would have an immediate positive benefit for your brain, including your mood and your focus? And what if I told you that same thing could actually last a long time and protect your brain from different conditions like depression, Alzheimer's disease, or dementia? Would you do it? And of course, everybody was like, oh yeah, totally. So she went on to explain, I am talking about the powerful effects of physical movement that is simply moving your body that has immediate, long-lasting, and protective benefits for your brain that can last you for the rest of your life. So she basically, I'm just going to sum up her amazing TED Talk because I don't want to steal or plagiarize. She in the 12 minutes, she just blew my mind away and just pretty much reaffirmed everything that I've known about yoga and its connection to me personally, which is that exercise is one of the most transformative things you can do for your brain. Our brains are one of the most complex structures in humankind ever. It's so complex that there's so many things about it we don't know. Basically, exercise creates new connections within your brain that helps grow your hippocampus and your prefrontal lobal, I'm totally butchering that, prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex talks about your decision-making and your focus and your personality. And so, like I said earlier, because of yoga, I truly believe that I was able to make better decisions as a teenager and that I was able to excel academically and that I have been able to have the energy to do the many things that I do now. And that's not to say like, oh, I'm this great person, I've never made a mistake in my life. I'm just saying that it really, truly is transformative and it very well could have saved my life. And I'm not talking about exercise in the sense of going on a run. If that's your preferred, way of exercising, beautiful. But I want to share with you guys yoga and this really beautiful way of simply saving space for yourself. So I gave you guys pretty much the textbook idea of what yoga is and what it does. And so benefits of brain-changing effects of exercise, according to Wendy Suzuki, is mood boost, energy boost, feel stronger, better attention, better focus, you maintain attention, and your long-term memory gets better. So when I was a teacher for 5 years, I worked at a Montessori school, and the entire idea of Montessori is so fascinating. If you guys ever have a moment to check out what it is about it, Maria Montessori basically developed this methodology that is basically the child leads. And she went to the United States, she went all over Europe, all over the world, and observed children for years, for like 30 years. And she came up with this new method of teaching. And one of the things that she saw in the United States was that our schools are kind of like little jails, right? And that everybody has to sit in a seat and not move around and be very frigid and rigid type of a thing. And she decided to create this new, different way of teaching where children, I mean, it's amazing. But one of the things that I walked away with from that is that children, if you can get your child to pretty much exercise your brain as far as memory goes, your child's going to go really far. Your memory is so important. And I feel like if you are able to memorize like a stack of cards, if you're able to memorize like a formula, you're going to be able to excel in so many different parts of academia, right? If you're able to read a book and memorize and comprehend it, memorize some of the quotes, you're going to go far. And so exercise helps actually grow the part of your brain that holds memory to better protect it from disease. And when I started doing yoga, I was only practicing maybe once a day. And due to the amount of hours that I need to practice for my certification, I ended up doing about 3 hours of yoga a day. The most I ever did was 5, and that was for my yoga teacher training classes. So 5 hours of yoga. And what I noticed within myself was exactly what Wendy Suzuki is saying. I have grown so much doing this teacher training program in more ways than I can. I mean, I was able to go back to some family trauma that I have from growing up. I was able to confront a lot of that and speak to my family members and heal from it much better. My mood improved. I'm a chronic migraine sufferer. If any of you guys have ever had a migraine, my heart goes out to you. They're horrific, but it's a brain disease. And my migraines have I mean, I used to get a migraine almost every day. And because of yoga, I've been able to control it with breathing and with simple movement. And my personality, I feel like I become more understanding, less likely to let the little things bug me. And my memory, I mean, I was able to memorize so much Sanskrit, so many, like the sun salutations, I was able to nail them pretty quickly. And I've noticed that also my yoga cohorts as a whole, we become much closer and more open. And I feel like that's something that the world definitely needs right now. And I feel like because as a Latinx woman, I have a lot of trauma, generational trauma from not necessarily dysfunctional family, but years and years of colonialism have affected my, my great grandparents, my grandparents, my parents' ability to parent. And I have been able to heal. I'm not everyone, but it was for me. And I want to be able to share with anybody a yoga instructor. moves. And I'm going to be gone for like 1 minute. And when I come back, hopefully you guys have a mat with you. If you don't, you guys can just watch me move. But if you really want to get the most out of this, I definitely encourage you guys to get a mat. But yeah, I'll see you in a sec. So this is my yoga space. Thumbs up if you can hear me, Gabby. Just want to make sure you can hear me. Cool, awesome. Okay, so this is where I practice yoga. When I was growing up, I used to clean out my closet and pull out everything that I had on the floor and swing the door open and lay my mat out, and that's where I would practice. There were some days that my mom and I would lay out our mats in the living room. Usually though, when my mom was working, because sometimes she had to work late, I would just lay it next to my bed. And all I had was my mat. And it was this mat that I bought at the thrift store because we didn't really have money to go buy a new one. But nowadays the thrift stores are pretty legit and you can find some really good mats. And if you clean them off really well, they can be an essential part of your practice. Of course, you can always just have a towel layout. All you need is just a little rectangular area for yourself. One of the things that my mentors from my yoga teacher training talks about is you really don't need more than space for you to lay down. So if the only space you have to lay down is your bed, that can be where you practice yoga. If the only place you have to sit quietly is in your bathtub when you're taking a shower, that's where you can practice yoga too. So I'm gonna quickly talk about our props. So this is a yoga block. If some of you have gone to a yoga class before, you may have seen this at a yoga studio. These yoga blocks are pretty important and essential for me, for somebody that's short. It helps bring the ground closer to you, depending on your move. If you're trying to go into warrior 3, right, it's different from this to having to go down here, right? So that's the function of the block. It's to bring the ground closer to you. It's also fantastic for assisted bridge pose. So if you want to go into a bridge, you can just place the block behind you, and that'll keep your hips up off the ground, so you're not using so much of your core. And I found that that's super helpful for like the older population that come into class. So there's that. Then we have this guy, which is the yoga strap. Yoga straps are amazing for if you want to open your hips. We have this movement, right? Let's just say I want to go out this way and I want to have control over my legs, making sure that I'm not just like flinging my leg from side to side. Perfect way to keep control. It's also really, really nice for binding poses. So I'm one of those people that I'm not the most flexible. So being able to get into these poses, right? Much easier with a strap. It can help you get there without having to force your arms. It helps have a little more control. And then these are my favorite part of yoga. So a lot of the yoga that we're familiar with is the crazy, not crazy, the more wild asanas, so more of like the this movement and like, you know, this kind of thing, or downward dog. There are things like restorative yoga, which is cozy, nurturing, just peaceful, perfect for before bedtime yoga, which I'm going to touch on right now. So these are my yoga blankets. You can purchase them anywhere they sell yoga blankets. This guy I actually bought at Target, and it works perfectly. So you don't have to go to like one of those fancy stores. I actually bought my Manduka blocks from a really awesome thrift store in Logan Square called Monarch. And yeah, I got really lucky because they're a pretty good quality and they're cork, so they're eco-friendly. But this is an old Target blanket. And this guy right here, I also bought at one of those yoga stores when I was out of town. And again, a very simple blanket. And these blankets are meant to create a cozy environment for yourself. So sometimes a yoga instructor will ask you to lay a blanket out on your mat, and that's to make it nice and soft and cushy for your hips, for your knees, for your back, for different types of poses. So if, let's just say you went into a child's pose on top of your blanket, so nice, right? So nice, so cozy, so much nicer than being on just your mat. It's much that way. Also, when you go into Savasana at the end of your practice, having a blanket underneath you and then another blanket on top creates this nice warm environment, because you tend to get cold when you go into Savasana because you stop moving. So cozy. I've definitely fallen asleep during Savasana. I'm one of those people. I can fall asleep anywhere, and having these blankets just makes it that much more personal and creates that connection. This guy is a yoga bolster. And this has so many functions, so many fun things you can do with it. You don't even need to get a bolster. You can grab your pillow from your bed, same thing. The only thing I will say is that bolsters are much more firm. This guy was gifted to me by a yogi friend who was super gracious and gave it to me, because these are not cheap, but they are super worth it if you really want to get the absolute most out of specific kind of yoga practices. So I'm in no way advertising you to go buy these, but they do feel amazing when you do have them. I will say, don't buy these things on Amazon. Don't do it. So you can do this, you can turn it this way. And there are literally yoga classes where you will just do this. You'll just be in complete silence, no movement, just you and your space and your practice. There's also movements where they have you put it this way and then you lay your hips on it. Again, just for comfortability, a nice place to rest your hips as opposed to on your hard mat. Also helps with lifts. So if you're someone that can't use that much elbow strength, you can place a bolster underneath you. This is typically used in restorative classes. So I'm going to do away with all these props. And for the last 10 minutes, yes, Gabby, Marshalls and TJ Maxx, awesome, awesome, awesome place to get yoga stuff. My mom actually bought her yoga mat from TJ Maxx, and she loves it. She bought a lot of her Pilates gear. So my mom is more of a Pilates lady. She's a little more, she has a little more energy than me. She's definitely a new soul. She's brand new. I'm more of an old soul. I like my low and slow. I also like being challenged. But yeah, she got all of her Pilates gear. She didn't have to order it. She went right to the TJ Maxx on Fullerton and she bought her magic circle and her Pilates ball, and she gets it in the living room to this day. So for the last 10 minutes of this little workshop, I want to lead you guys through a Pilates sequence. And it's going to be super simple. So we're going to go through a little preparation, a mini flow, and then a little Savasana. And then after, if you guys want to ask me questions, feel free. I'll leave my information in the chat box for you guys. If you guys want to email me or check out my website, I'm offering free classes, free yoga classes. And I'm not really sure where I'm going to go after I graduate. But for now, definitely take advantage of the absolutely, when I say free, I mean like free 99. You don't have to pay for it at all. They're by Zoom, and I teach gentle. I teach a more moderately paced 420 friendly yoga class on Monday nights, and on Sunday I teach a bedtime yoga. So for the people that get the Sunday scaries, definitely join me Sunday nights. So, okay. So we're all gonna start in a seated position. Legs can be crossed. If your hips are tight, feel free to have your legs spread out. And we are just going to set our intention for our practice. I offer up the intention of positivity and optimism, that this practice is going to be fun, that it's going to be exactly what you need on this beautiful sunny Wednesday afternoon. So we're going to take a big inhale here and an exhale. Roll your shoulders back, release your shoulders. Super nice. I usually do my yoga wearing my hoops. So if you want to wear your hoops to yoga, go for it. We're going to take a big inhale here, sending our hands up. Touch your hands together and exhale. Send your body to the right. Placing your right hand behind you to lift up your back. Place your left hand on your right knee. And you can stay here. Option to press against your right knee to deepen your twist. You're going to take an inhale for length. Exhale to deepen your twist, sending your gaze over your right shoulder. Take an inhale here and an exhale. Make it as loud as you want. Take an inhale, send your hands up over your head. Exhale, place them in front of you on your mat or on your shins if your legs are straight out. Lower your head, release your shoulders. Let gravity do its job. Take an inhale here. Send the crown of your head forward and exhale, sink deeper into your bend. Inhale, exhale. Slowly walk your fingers towards your feet or towards your belly. Roll your shoulders back. Take an inhale, arms up over your head. Exhale, twist over to your left. Place your right hand on your left knee. Push yourself deeper into your twist or not. It's your practice. You go wherever you want. Take an inhale for length. Exhale. Palms towards your screen, towards the front. Exhale, you're into a cactus.
Hi everyone. Looks like we lost connection with Gabby. We'll have her hop on in a couple of seconds. Please bear with us. Thank you. There you are. We lost you.
Okay. Great. All right. Glad I wasn't gone for too long. Okay. So we were in cactus arms, taking an exhale. And from here, we're going to swing our legs around. We're going to take a couple of cat cows. So let me just make sure I'm pinned for everyone, just in case. Okay. We're going to take a couple of cat cows here. You're going to make sure that you have wrist to shoulder connection, making sure we're protecting our wrists. Your feet are going to be flat behind you. We're going to take an inhale, roll your shoulders back. Exhale, lower your head, place your gaze at your navel, send your spine up to the sky. Inhale, take your gaze up, drop your belly. Exhale, roll your spine. From here, you're going to curl your toes, lift your knees up into a downward dog. This will probably be your first downward dog of the day, so shift your hips side to side. Really take what you need from this pose, whatever it is. You're going to do a secret bend in your knee, placing your knees closer to your belly. Take an inhale, look up to the top of your mat. Step or jump to the top of your mat. And we're going to meet in a forward fold, so your hands are going to be on your mat. You're going to shift your knees side to side, really taking in what this pose is offering you. You're going to inhale halfway up, hands on your knees, flat back. Roll your shoulders back. Exhale, lower, hands down. Inhale, arms up over your head. Exhale, hands at your side. Beautiful. So these breathing cues are meant to flow with your asanas. So you're meant to do each movement with an inhale or an exhale. So you're going to inhale, arms up over your head. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, hands down onto your mat. Send your legs back into a plank. Shift forward, lower down into your Chaturanga Dandasana. So you're going to go down, knees, hips, belly, chest. Your next inhale, you're going to lift up into an upward dog or cobra, whichever expression you want to take. Curl your toes, lift up into a downward dog. Lower your knees down, sit back, and I invite you guys to lay out on your mat for your Savasana. So we just did a warm-up. We went into the Sun A, and now we're going to lower into our final resting pose, which is Savasana, which is the death of your practice. It's also basically what you just did is you go into a journey towards your meditation. All of those movements, your beautiful reward is time with yourself. So for Savasana, you just lower back onto your back. Take up as much space as you want. So in every yoga class, the instructors will tell you that Savasana is here for you. And that is so, so true. You can take Savasana, like I said, on your bed. You can take Savasana on your mat without doing any of the movements. Savasana is time with yourself. You deserve to give yourself time with yourself, to check in with yourself. How is Gabby doing? How is Kelly doing? How is Brenda doing? How is Maria doing? So usually at the end of my classes, I offer up a little anecdote. And that's what I'm going to read to you today. So this is called The Beginning of Freedom. The beginning of freedom is a realization that you are not your mind, the thinker. Knowing this enables you to observe the entity. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought. That thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You also realize that all the things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. You begin to awaken. Thank you guys for teaching me yoga today. Thank you guys for joining me in my practice. The light in me honors and sees the light in you. Namaste. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them below. If you guys want to email me, you guys are free to do that. My website is Gabriela with one L, C.com. You guys are welcome to take my classes. I have written 2 books. Both of them are going to be available at the Honeycomb Network in Humboldt Park, which is a huge honor to me because that's where my books both take place. One book explores a lot of the really great things that happened to me growing up. And my second book is about some of the not so great things that happened to me growing up. And I'll definitely let Gabby know when those 2 will be there. Feel free to follow the Honeycomb Network on Instagram. I think their handle is the Honeycomb Network. They're also an amazing resource for Latinx yoga as well, and Reiki practitioners. They're amazing. Yeah, so thank you guys again. I think my Instagram might be there as well. It's Notorious GAB. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, Gabby, and thank you to the Morton community for having me. I'll be having another workshop on the 24th, which will be an entire practice. Join me if you guys like. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.